The following is a free-for-download audiobook available on krishnapath.org. Bhagavad Gita as it is, by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 9. The Most Confidential Knowledge. Text 1. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, idam tu te guruya tamam pravakshyami anusuyave, jnanam vijnanam sahitam yajgnatva mokshase subhat. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, idam, this, tu, but, te, unto you, guya tamam, most confidential, pravakshyami, I am speaking, anasuyave, to the non-envious, jnanam, knowledge, vijnan, realized knowledge, sahitam, with, yat, which, gnatva, knowing, mokshase, be released, asubat, from this miserable material existence. Translation. The Supreme Lord said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, knowing which you shall be relieved of all the miseries of material existence. Purport. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Quote, the messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. End quote. Devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and gives him the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna in the association of the devotees. Discussion of Krishna is very potent, and if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement towards spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, describes in this 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the 1st chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the 2nd and 3rd chapters, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. The topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service, and because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, they are called more confidential. But the matters which are described in the 9th chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pangs, although he is in the material world. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we shall find in the Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person. Now, this first verse has specific significance. Knowledge, idam jnanam, refers to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. At the time when one's heart is cleared of the material contamination, one can understand this science of Krishna. Simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between activities of the body and spiritual activities by which one understands that he is not the body. In the 7th chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his different energies, the inferior and superior natures, and all this material manifestation. Now, in chapters 9 and 10, the glories of the Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word anasuyave in this verse is also very significant. Generally, the commentators, even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the most erudite scholars write on Bhagavad Gita very inaccurately. Because they are envious of Krishna, their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by devotees of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. So such commentaries should be very carefully avoided. One who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial. Text 2. Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitam Idamuttamam Praktya Shravakamam Dharmyam Shushukam Kartamaviyam. Raja Vidya, the king of education. Raja Guyam, the king of confidential knowledge. Pavitram, the purest. Idam, this. Uttamam, transcendental. Pratyaksha, directly experienced. Avagamam, understood. Dharmyam, the principle of religion. Shushukam, very happy. Kartum, to execute. Avyayam, everlasting. Translation: this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. Purport: this chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called the King of Education because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. There are seven principal philosophers in India: Gautama, Kanada, Kapila, Yajnavalkya, Shandilya, Vaishvanara, and finally Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra. So there is no dearth of knowledge in the field of philosophy or transcendental knowledge. Now, the Lord says that this 9th chapter is the king of all such knowledge, the essence of all knowledge that can be derived from the study of the Vedas and different kinds of philosophy. It is the most confidential because confidential or transcendental knowledge involves understanding the difference between the soul and the body, and the king of all confidential knowledge culminates in devotional service. Generally, people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. They're educated in external knowledge. As far as ordinary education is concerned, people are involved with so many departments: politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, engineering, etc. There are so many departments of knowledge all over the world, and many huge universities, but there is, unfortunately, no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. Yet, the soul is the most important part of this body. Without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. Still, people are placing great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. The Bhagavad Gita, especially from the 2nd chapter on, stresses the importance of the soul. In the very beginning, the Lord says that this body is perishable and that the soul is not perishable. That is a confidential part of knowledge. Simply knowing that spirit soul is different from this body and that its nature is immutable, indestructible, and eternal. But that gives no positive information about the soul. Sometimes people are under the impression that the soul is different from the body and that when the body is finished, one is liberated from the body. The soul remains in a void and becomes impersonal. But actually that is not the fact. How can the soul, which is so active within this body, be inactive after being liberated from the body? It is always active. If it is eternal, then it is eternally active, and its activities in the spiritual kingdom are the most confidential part of spiritual knowledge. These activities of the spirit soul are therefore indicated here as constituting the king of all knowledge, the most confidential part of all knowledge. This knowledge is the purest form of all activities, as is explained in Vedic literature. In the Padma Purana, man's sinful activities have been analyzed and are shown to be the results of sin after sin. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and forms of sinful reactions. For instance, when the seed of a particular tree is sown, the tree does not appear immediately To grow, it takes some time. It is first a small sprouting plant, then it assumes the form of a tree, then it flowers, bears fruit, and when it is complete, the flowers and fruits are enjoyed by persons who have sown the seed of the tree. Similarly, a man may perform a sinful act, and like a seed, it takes time to fructify. There are different stages. The sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the results or the fruit of that sinful action are still enjoyed. There are sins which are still in the form of a seed. There are others which are already fructified and are giving us fruit, which we are enjoying as distress and pain, as explained in the 20th verse of the 7th chapter. Persons who have completely ended the reactions of all sinful activities and who are engaged in pious activities, being freed from the duality of this material world, becomes engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In other words, those who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord are already free from all reactions. Those who are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all sinful reactions, whether fructified in the stalk or in the form of a seed, gradually vanish. Therefore, the purifying potency of devotional service is very strong, and it is called Pavitram Uttamam, the purest. Uttamam means transcendental. Tamas means this material world or darkness, and Uttamam means that which is transcendental to material activities. Devotional activities are never to be considered material, although sometimes it appears that devotees are engaged just like ordinary men. One who can see and is familiar with devotional service, however, will know that they are not material activities. They are all spiritual and devotional, uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. It is said that the execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. This direct result is actually perceived, and we have practical experience that any person who is chanting the holy names of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, in course of time feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. This is actually seen. Furthermore, if one engages not only in hearing, but in trying to broadcast the message of devotional activities as well, or if he engages himself in helping the missionary activities of Krishna consciousness, he gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. The method itself is so pure that simply by engaging in it one becomes pure. In the Vedanta Sutra, this is also described in the following words, Prakashas cha karmani abhyashat. Quote, devotional service is so potent that simply by engaging in the activities of devotional service, one becomes enlightened without a doubt. End quote. Narada, who happened to be the son of a maidservant, had no education, nor was he born into a high family, but when his mother was engaged in serving great devotees, Narada also became engaged, and sometimes, in the absence of his mother, he would serve the great devotees himself. Narada personally says, quote, only once, by their permission, I took the remnants of their food, and by so doing, all my sins were at once eradicated. Thus, being engaged, I became purified in heart, and at that time, the very nature of the transcendentalist became attractive to me. End quote. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.25. Narada tells his disciple Vyasadeva that in the previous life he was engaged as a boy servant of purified devotees during 4 months of their stay, and that he was intimately associating with them. Sometimes those sages left remnants of food on their dishes, and the boy, who would wash their dishes, wanted to taste the remnants. So he asked the great devotees whether he could eat them, and they gave their permission. Narada then ate some remnants and consequently became freed from all sinful reactions. As he went on eating, he gradually became as pure-hearted as the sages, and he gradually developed the same taste. The great devotees relished the taste of unceasing devotional service to the Lord, hearing, chanting, etc., and by developing the same taste, Narada also wanted to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. Thus, by associating with the sages, he developed a great desire for devotional service. Therefore, he quotes from the Vedanta Sutra, prakashascha karmani abhyasat. If one is engaged simply in the acts of devotional service, everything is revealed to him automatically, and he can understand. This is called prakasha, directly perceived. Narada was actually a son of a maidservant. He had no opportunity to go to school. He was simply assisting his mother, and fortunately his mother rendered some service to the devotees. The child, Narada, also got the opportunity, and simply by association, achieved the highest goal of all religions, devotional service. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that religious people generally do not know that the highest perfection of religion is the attainment of the stage of devotional service. Generally, Vedic knowledge is required for understanding of the path of self-realization. But here, although he was not educated in the Vedic principle, Narada acquired the highest results of Vedic study. This process is so potent that even without performing the religious process regularly, one can be raised to the highest perfection. How is this possible? This is also confirmed in Vedic literature, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. One who is in association with great acharyas, even if he is not educated or has not studied the Vedas, can become familiar with all the knowledge necessary for realization. The process of devotional service is a very happy one. Why? Devotional service consists of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. So one can simply hear the chanting of the glories of the Lord, or can attend philosophical lectures on transcendental knowledge given by authorized acharyas. Simply by sitting, one can learn. And then one can eat the remnants of the food offered to God, nice, palatable dishes. In every state, devotional service is joyful. One can execute devotional service even in the most poverty-stricken condition. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Palam. He is ready to accept from the devotee any kind of offering, never mind what, even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water, which are all available in every part of the world, can be offered by any person, regardless of social position, and will be accepted if offered with love. There are many instances in history. Simply by tasting the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages like Sanat Kumar became great devotees. Therefore, the devotional process is very nice, and it can be executed in a happy mood. God accepts only the love with which things are offered to him. It is said here that this devotional service is eternally existing. It is not as the Mayavadi philosophers claim. They sometimes take to so-called devotional service, and as long as they are not liberated, they continue their devotional service. But at the end, when they become liberated, they, quote, become one with God, end quote. Such temporary time-serving devotional service is not accepted as pure devotional service. Actual devotional service continues even after liberation. When the devotee goes to the spiritual planet in the kingdom of God, he is also engaged there in serving the Supreme Lord. He does not try to become one with the Supreme Lord. As it will be seen, actual devotional service begins after liberation. So, in Bhagavad Gita it is said, Brahmbhuta. After being liberated or being situated in the Brahman platform, one's devotional service begins. By executing devotional service, one can understand the Supreme Lord. No one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by executing Karma Yoga, Jnana, or Ashtanga Yoga, or any other yoga independently. Without coming to the stage of devotional service, one cannot understand what is the Personality of Godhead. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed that when one becomes purified by executing the process of devotional service, especially by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from realized souls, then he can understand the science of Krishna or the science of God. Evam prasana manaso Bhagavat bhakti yogata. When one's heart is cleared of all nonsense, then one can understand what God is. Thus, the process of devotional service or Krishna consciousness is the king of all education and the king of all transcendental or confidential knowledge. It is the purest form of religion, and it can be executed joyfully without difficulty. Therefore, one should adopt it. Text 3. Ashradadana Purusha Dharma Syasya Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nivartante Mritu Samsara Vartmani. Ashradadana, those who are faithless, Purusha, such persons. Dharmasya, of this process of religion. Asya, of it. Parantapa, O killer of the enemies. Aprapya, without obtaining. Mam, me. Navartante, come back. Mrityu, death. Samsara, material existence. Vartmani, on the path of. Translation. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. Purport. The faithless cannot accomplish this process of devotional service. That is the purport of this verse. Faith is created by association with devotees. Unfortunate people, even after hearing all the evidence of Vedic literature from great personalities, still have no faith in God. They are hesitant and cannot stay fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, faith is a most important factor for progress in Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one should have complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, he can achieve all perfection. That is called real faith. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.4.12, it is stated that by giving water to the root of a tree, its branches, twigs, and leaves become satisfied, and by supplying food to the stomach, all the senses of the body become satisfied, and similarly, by engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, all the demigods and all the living entities automatically become satisfied. After reading Bhagavad Gita, one should promptly come to the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita that one should give up all other engagements and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, the personality of Godhead. If one is convinced of this philosophy, that is faith. Now, the development of that faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. There are 3 divisions of Krishna conscious men. In the third class are those who have no faith. If they are engaged in devotional service officially or for some ulterior purpose, they cannot achieve the highest perfectional stage. Most probably they will slip after some time. They may become engaged, but because they haven't complete conviction and faith, it is very difficult for them to continue in Krishna consciousness. We have practical experience in discharging our missionary activity that some people come and apply themselves to Krishna consciousness with some hidden motive, and as soon as they are a little economically well situated, they give up this process and take to their old ways again. It is only by faith that one can advance in Krishna consciousness. As far as the development of faith is concerned, one who is well versed in the literatures of devotional service and has attained the stage of firm faith is called a first-class person in Krishna consciousness. And in the second class are those who are not very advanced in understanding the devotional scriptures, but who automatically have firm faith that Krishna Bhakti, our service to Krishna, is the best course, and so in good faith have taken it up. Thus, they are superior to the third class who have neither perfect knowledge of the scriptures nor good faith, but by association and simplicity are trying to follow. Third-class person in Krishna consciousness may fall down, but when one is in the second class or first class, he does not fall down. One in the first class will surely make progress and achieve the result at the end. As far as the third-class person in Krishna consciousness is concerned, although he has faith in the conviction that devotional service to Krishna is very good, he has no knowledge of Krishna through the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes these third-class persons in Krishna consciousness have some tendency toward karma yoga and jnana yoga, and sometimes they are disturbed, but as soon as the infection of karma yoga and jnana yoga is vanquished, they become second-class or first-class persons in Krishna consciousness. Faith in Krishna is also divided into 3 stages and described in Srimad Bhagavatam. First-class attachment, second-class attachment, and third-class attachment are also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto. Those who have no faith, even after hearing about Krishna and the excellence of devotional service, who think that it is simply eulogy, find the path very difficult, even if they are supposedly engaged in devotional service. For them, there is very little hope in gaining perfection. Thus, faith is very important in the discharge of devotional service. Text 4. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham tveshavashtitaha. Maya, by me, tatam spread, idam, all these manifestations, sarvam, all, Jagat, cosmic manifestation, Avyakta Murtina, unmanifested form, Matstani, unto me, Sarvabhutani, all living entities, Na, not, Cha, also, Aham, I, Teshu, in them, Avashtita, situated. Translation. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is not perceivable through the gross material senses. It is said that Lord Sri Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, etc. cannot be understood by material senses. Only to one who is engaged in pure devotional service under proper guidance is he revealed. In the Brahma Samhita it is stated, Premanjana Chorita. One can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, always within himself and outside himself, if he has developed the transcendental loving attitude toward him. Thus, for people in general, he's not visible. Here it is said that although he's all-pervading, everywhere present, he is yet not conceivable by the material senses. But actually, although we cannot see him, everything is resting in him. As we have discussed in the 7th chapter, the entire cosmic manifestation is only a combination of his two different energies, superior spiritual energy and the inferior material energy. Just as the sunshine is spread all over the universe, the energy of the Lord is spread all over the creation, and everything is resting on that energy. Yet, one should not conclude that because he is spread all over, he has lost his personal existence. To refute such an argument, the Lord says, quote, I am everywhere and everything is in me, but still I'm aloof, end quote. For example, a king heads a government, which is but the manifestation of the king's energy. The different governmental departments are nothing but the energies of the king, and each department is resting on the king's power. But still, one cannot expect the king to be present in every department personally. That is a crude example. Similarly, all the manifestations that we see and everything that exists, both in this material world and in the spiritual world, are resting on the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The creation takes place by the diffusion of his different energies, and as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, he is everywhere present by his personal representation, the diffusion of his different energies. Text 5. Nacha matstani bhutani pashya me yogamaishwaram. Bhuta brin nacha bhutashto mamatma bhuta bhavana. Na, never, cha, also, matstani, situated in me, bhutani, all creation, pasya, just see, me, my, yogam aishwaram, inconceivable mystic power, bhuta brit, maintainer of all living entities, na, never, cha, also, bhutasta, in the cosmic manifestation, mama, my, atma, self, bhuta bhavana, is the source of all manifestations. Translation. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, still my very self, myself, is the very source of creation. Purport. The Lord says that everything is resting on him. This should not be misunderstood. The Lord is not directly concerned with the maintenance and sustenance of this material manifestation. Sometimes we see a picture of Atlas holding the globe on his shoulders. He seems to be very tired, holding this great earthly planet. Such an image should not be entertained in connection with Krishna's upholding this created universe. He says that although everything is resting on him, still he is aloof. The planetary systems are floating in space, and this space is the energy of the Supreme Lord. But he is different from space. He is differently situated. Therefore, the Lord says, quote, although they are situated on my inconceivable energy, still, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I am aloof from them, end quote. This is the inconceivable opulence of the Lord. In the Vedic dictionary, it is said, quote, the Supreme Lord is performing inconceivably wonderful pastimes, displaying his energy. His person is full of different potent energies, and his determination is itself actual fact. In this way, the personality of God is to be understood, end quote. We may think to do something, but there are so many impediments, and sometimes it is not possible to do as we like. But when Krishna wants to do something, simply by his willing, everything is performed so perfectly that one cannot understand how it is being done. The Lord explains this fact. Although he is the maintainer and sustainer of all material manifestation, he does not touch this material manifestation. Simply by his supreme will, everything is created, everything is sustained, everything is maintained, and everything is annihilated. There is no difference between his mind and himself, as there is a difference between ourselves and our present material mind, because he is absolute spirit. Simultaneously, the Lord is present in everything, yet the common man cannot understand how he is also present personally. He is different from this material manifestation, yet everything is resting on him. This is explained here as Yogam Aishwaram, the mystic power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 6. Yata kasha stito nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan tata sarvani bhutani machstaniti upadarya. Yata, as much as akasha stita, situated in space, nityam, always, vayu, wind, sarvatraga, blowing everywhere, mahan, great, tata, similarly, sarvani, everything, bhutani, created beings, matstani, situated in me, iti, thus, upadarya, try to understand. Translation. As the mighty wind, blowing everywhere, always rests in ethereal space, know that in the same manner all beings rest in me. Purport. For the ordinary person, it is almost inconceivable how the huge material creation is resting in him. But the Lord has given an example which may help us to understand. Space is the biggest manifestation we can conceive. The cosmic manifestation rests in space. Space permits the movement of even the atoms and on up to the greatest planets, the sun and the moon. Although the sky, or wind, or air is great, still it is situated within space. Space is not beyond the sky. Similarly, all the wonderful cosmic manifestations are existing by the supreme will of God, and all of them are subordinate to that supreme will. As we generally say, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, everything is moving under his will. By his will, everything is being created, everything is being maintained, and everything is being annihilated. Still, he is aloof from everything, as space is always aloof from the activities of the atmosphere. In the Upanishads, it is stated, quote, "It is out of fear of the Supreme Lord that the wind is blowing," end quote. In the Garga Upanishad, it is stated, quote, "By the supreme order, under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the moon, the sun, and the great planets are moving," end quote. In the Brahma Samhita, this is also stated. There is also a description of the movement of the sun, and it is said that the sun is considered to be one of the eyes of the Supreme Lord, and that it has immense potency to diffuse heat and light. Still, it is moving in its prescribed order by the order of the orbit, by the order of the supreme will of Govinda. So, from the Vedic literature, we can find evidence that this material manifestation, which appears to us to be very great and wonderful, is under the complete control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This will be further explained in the later verses of this chapter. Text 7. Sarva Bhutani Konteya Prakratim Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshaya Punastani Kalpado Vishijamyaham. Sarva Bhutani, all created entities, Konteya, O son of Kunti, Prakratim, nature, Yanti, enter, Mamikam, unto me, Kalpakshaya, at the end of the millennium, Puna, again, Tani, all those, Kalpado, in the beginning of the millennium, Vishrijami, I create, Aham, I. Translation. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, every material manifestation enters into my nature, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I again create. Purport. The creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this material cosmic manifestation is completely dependent on the supreme will of the Personality of Godhead. Quote, at the end of the millennium, end quote, means at the death of Brahma. Brahma lives for 100 years, and his one day is calculated at 4,300,000,000 of our earthly years. His night is of the same duration. His month consists of 30 such days and nights, and his year of 12 months. After 100 such years, when Brahma dies, the devastation or annihilation takes place. This means that the energy manifested by the Supreme Lord is again wound up in himself. Then again, when there is need to manifest the cosmic world, it is done by his will. Quote, "Although I am one, I shall become many." End quote. This is the Vedic aphorism. He expands himself in this material energy, and the whole cosmic manifestation again takes place. Text 8. Prakritim svam avashtabhya vishijam puna puna bhutam gramam imam kritsnam avasham prakriter vashat. Prakritim, material nature, svam, of my personal self. Avashtabhya, enter in. Vrishijami, create. Puna puna, again, again. Bhuta gramam, all these cosmic manifestations. Imam, this. Kritsnam, total. Avasham, automatically. Prakrite, by the force of nature. Vashat, under obligation. Translation, the whole cosmic order is under me. By my will it is manifested again and again, and by my will it is annihilated at the end. Purport. This matter is the manifestation of the inferior energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This has already been explained several times. At their creation, the material energy is let loose as Mahatattva, into which the Lord, as his first Purusha incarnation, Mahavishnu, enters. He lies within the causal ocean and breathes out innumerable universes, and into each universe the Lord again enters as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. Each universe is in that way created. He still further manifests himself as Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, and that Vishnu enters into everything, even into the minute atom. This fact is explained here. He enters into everything. Now, as far as the living entities are concerned, they are impregnated into this material nature, and as a result of their past deeds, they take different positions. Thus, the activities of this material world begin. The activities of the different species of living entities are begun from the very moment of creation. It is not that all is evolved. The different species of life are created immediately along with the universe. Men, animals, beasts, birds, everything is simultaneously created because whatever desires the living entities had at the last annihilation are again manifested. It is clearly stated here that the living entities have nothing to do with this process. The state of being in their past lives in the past creation is simply manifested again, and all this is done simply by his will. This is the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of God. And after creating different species of life, he has no connection with them. This creation takes place to accommodate the inclinations of the various living entities, and so the Lord does not become involved with it. Text 9. Nacha mam tani karmani nibad nanti dananjaya udasinavad asinam ashaktam teshu karmashu. Na, never. Cha, also. Mam, me. Tan, all those karmani activities. Nibandnanti, bind. Dananjaya, O conqueror of riches. Udasinavat, as neutral. Asinam, situated. Ashaktam, without attraction. Teshu, in them. Karmeshu, in activities. Translation. O Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached, seated as though neutral. Purport. One should not think, in this connection, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no engagement. In his spiritual world, he is always engaged. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, quote, he is always involved in his eternal blissful spiritual activities, but he has nothing to do with these material activities, end quote. Material activities are being carried on by his different potencies. The Lord is always neutral in the material activities of the created world. This neutrality is explained here. Although he has control over every minute detail of matter, he is sitting as if neutral. The example can be given of a high court judge sitting on his bench. By his order, so many things are happening. Someone is being hanged, someone is being put into jail, someone is awarded a huge amount of wealth, but still he is neutral. He has nothing to do with all that gain and loss. Similarly, the Lord is always neutral, although he has his hand in every sphere of activity. In the Vedanta Sutra, it is stated that he is not situated in the dualities of this material world. He is transcendental to these dualities, nor is he attached to the creation and annihilation of this material world. The living entities take their different forms in the various species of life according to their past deeds, and the Lord doesn't interfere with them. Text 10. Maya dakshina prakriti suite sacharacharam hetuno nena konteya jagat vipar vivartate. Maya, by me. Adyakshena, by superintendence. Prakriti, material nature. Suyate, manifest. Sa, with. Characharam, moving and non-moving. Hetuna, for this reason. Anena, this. Konteya, O son of Kunti. Jagat, the cosmic manifestation. Viparivartate, is working. Translation. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Purport. It is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from all the activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. The Supreme Lord is the supreme will and the background of this material manifestation, but the management is being conducted by material nature. Krishna also states in Bhagavad Gita that of all the living entities in different forms and species, quote, I am the Father, end quote. The Father gives seeds to the womb of the mother for the child, and similarly the Supreme Lord, by his mere glance, injects all the living entities into the womb of material nature, and they come out in their different forms and species according to their last desires and activities. All these living entities, although born under the glance of the Supreme Lord, still take their different bodies according to their past deeds and desires. So, the Lord is not directly attached to this material creation. He simply glances over material nature is thus activated, and everything is created immediately. Because he glances over material nature, there is undoubtedly activity on the part of the Supreme Lord, but he has nothing to do with the manifestation of the material world directly. This example is given in the Smriti. When there is a fragrant flower before someone, the fragrance is touched by the smelling person of the power of the person, yet the smelling and the flower are detached from one another. There is a similar connection between the material world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he has nothing to do with this material world, but he creates by his glance and ordains. In summary, material nature, without the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot do anything. Yet the Supreme Personality is detached from all material activities. Text 11. Avajananti mamudha manusim tanumashritam parambhavam vajananto mamabhuta maheswaram. Avajananti, deride, me, muda, foolish men, manusim, in a human form, tanum, body, ashritam, assuming, param, transcendental, bhavam, nature, avjananta, not knowing, mam, mine, bhuta, everything that be, maheshwaram, supreme proprietor. Translation. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Purport. From the other explanations of the previous verses in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a common man. The Personality of Godhead, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation, cannot be a human being. Yet, there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality, as is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Paramakrishna. He is the Supreme Lord. There are many Ishwaras, controllers, and one appears greater than another. In the ordinary management of affairs in the material world, we find some officer or director, and above him there is a secretary, and above him is a minister, and above him a president. Each of them is a controller, but one is controlled by another. In the Brahma Samhita it is said that Krishna is the supreme controller. There are many controllers undoubtedly both in the material and spiritual world, but Krishna is the supreme controller, Ishvara Parama Krishna, and his body is Sat Chit Ananda, non-material. Material bodies cannot perform the wonderful acts described in previous verses. His body is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. Although he is not a common man, the foolish deride him and consider him to be a man. His body is called here Manusim, because he is acting just like a man, as a friend of Arjuna's, a politician involved in the battle of Kurukshetra. In so many ways, he is acting just like an ordinary man, but actually his body is Satchidananda Vigraha, eternal bliss and knowledge absolute. This is confirmed in the Vedic language also, Satchidananda Rupaya Krishnaya. Quote, I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is the eternal blissful form of knowledge, end quote. There are other descriptions in the Vedic language also. Tadekam Govindam, quote, you are Govinda, the pleasure of the senses and the cows, end quote. Satchidananda Vigraham, quote, and your eternal form is transcendental, full of knowledge, bliss, and eternality, end quote. Despite the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna's body, its full bliss and knowledge, there are many so-called scholars and commentators of Bhagavad Gita who deride Krishna as an ordinary man. The scholar may be born an extraordinary man due to his previous good work, but this conception of Sri Krishna is due to a poor fund of knowledge. Therefore he is called Mudha, for only foolish persons consider Krishna to be an ordinary being, because they do not know the confidential activities of the Supreme Lord and his different energies. They do not know that Krishna's body is a symbol of complete bliss and knowledge, that he is the proprietor of everything, and that he can award liberation to anyone. Because they do not know that Krishna has so many transcendental qualifications, they deride him. Nor do they know that the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this material world is a manifestation of his internal energy. He is the master of the material energy, as has been explained in several places. Maya, Mama Maya Dharatya. He claims that the material energy, although very powerful, is under his control, and whoever surrenders unto him can get out of the control of this material energy. If a soul surrendered to Krishna can get out of the influence of material energy, then how can the Supreme Lord, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the whole cosmic nature, have a material body like us? So, this conception of Krishna is complete foolishness. Foolish persons, however, cannot conceive that the personality of Godhead, Krishna, appearing just like an ordinary man, can be the controller of all the atoms and of the gigantic manifestation of the universal form. The biggest and the minutest are beyond their conception, so they cannot imagine that a form like that of a human being can simultaneously control the infinite and the minute. Although he is controlling the infinite and the finite, he is apart from all this manifestation. It is clearly stated concerning his yogam Aishwaram, his inconceivable transcendental energy, that he can control the infinite and finite simultaneously, and that he can remain aloof from them. Although the foolish cannot imagine how Krishna, who appears just like a human being, can control the finite and the infinite, those who are pure devotees accept this, for they know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore they completely surrender unto him and engage in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord. There are many controversies amongst the impersonalists and the personalists about the Lord's appearance as a human being. But if we consult Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, the authoritative texts for understanding the science of Krishna, then we can understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not an ordinary man, although he appeared on this earth as an ordinary human. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 1st Chapter, when the sages inquire about the activities of Krishna, it is stated that his appearance as a man bewilders the foolish. No human being could perform the wonderful acts that Krishna performed while he was present on this earth. When Krishna appeared before his father and mother, Vasudeva and Devaki, he appeared with 4 hands, but after the prayers of the parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child. His appearance as an ordinary human being is one of the features of his transcendental body. In the 11th chapter of the Gita also it is stated, Tanaiva Rupena, etc. Arjuna prayed to see again that form of 4 hands, and when Krishna was thus petitioned by Arjuna, he again assumed his original form. All these different features of the Supreme Lord are certainly not those of an ordinary human being. Some of those who deride Krishna, who are infected with the Mayavadi philosophy, quote the following verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam to prove that Krishna is just an ordinary man. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhutatmavastita sada. Quote, the Supreme is present in every living entity, end quote. Bhagavad Gita 3, or Srimad Bhagavatam 3:29-21. We should better take note of this particular verse from the Vaishnava acharyas like Jiva Goswami instead of following the interpretation of unauthorized persons who deride Krishna. Jiva Goswami, commenting on this verse, says that Krishna, in his plenary expansion as Paramatma, is situated in the moving and non-moving entities as the Supersoul. So any neophyte devotee who simply gives his attention to the Archamurti, the form of the Supreme Lord in the temple, but does not respect other living entities, is uselessly worshipping the form of the Lord in the temple. There are 3 kinds of devotees of the Lord, and the neophyte is the lowest stage. A neophyte devotee gives more attention to the deity in the temple rather than to other devotees. So Jiva Goswami warns that this sort of mentality should be corrected. A devotee should see that Krishna is present in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Therefore, every body is the embodiment or the temple of the Supreme Lord, and as such, as one offers respects to the temple of the Lord, he should similarly properly respect each and every body in whom the Paramatma dwells. Everyone should therefore be given proper respect and should not be neglected. There are also many impersonalists who deride temple worship. They say that since God is everywhere, why should one restrict himself to temple worship? But if God is everywhere, is he not in the temple or in the deity? Although the personalist and the impersonalist will fight with each other perpetually, a perfect devotee in Krishna consciousness knows that although Krishna is the Supreme Personality, he is all-pervading, as is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Although his personal abode is Goloka Vrindavan, and he is always staying there, still, by his direct manifestations of energy and by his plenary expansion, he is present everywhere in all parts of the material and spiritual creation. Text 12. Mogasa moga karmano moga jnanat vichetasa raksasim asuram chaiva prakritim mohinim shrita. Mogasa, baffled hope. Moga karmana, baffled in fruitive activities. Moga jnana, baffled in knowledge. Vichetasa, bewildered. Rakasim, demoniac. Asuram, atheistic. Cha, and. Eva, certainly. Prakritim, nature. Mohinim, bewildering. Shrita, taking shelter of. Translation. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes of liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. Purport. There are many devotees who assume themselves to be in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, but at heart do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as the absolute truth. For them, the fruit of devotional service, going back to Godhead, will never be tasted. Similarly, those who are engaged in fruitive, pious activities and who are ultimately hoping to be liberated from this material entanglement will never be successful either because they deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In other words, persons who mock Krishna are to be understood to be demoniac or atheistic. As described in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, such demoniac miscreants never surrender to Krishna. Therefore, their mental speculations to arrive at the absolute truth bring them to the false conclusion that the ordinary living entity and Krishna are one and the same. With such a false conviction, they think that the body of any human being is now simply covered by material nature, and that as soon as one is liberated from this material body, there is no difference between God and himself. This attempt to become one with Krishna will be baffled because of delusion. Such atheistic and demonic cultivation of spiritual knowledge is always futile. That is the indication of this verse. For such persons, cultivation of the knowledge in the Vedic literature, like the Vedanta Sutra and the Upanishads, is always baffled. It is a great offense, therefore, to consider Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to be an ordinary man. Those who do so are certainly deluded because they cannot understand the eternal form of Krishna. In the Brihad Vaishnava mantra, it is clearly stated that one who considers the body of Krishna to be material should be driven out from all rituals and activities of the Shruti. And if by chance one sees his face, he should at once take a bath in the Ganges and rid himself of infection. People jeer at Krishna because they are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Their destiny is certainly to take birth after birth in the species of atheistic and demonic life. Perpetually their real knowledge will remain in delusion, and gradually they will regress to the darkest region of creation. Text 13. Mahatmanas tamam parta daivim prakritimashrita bhajanti anayanya manaso gyatva bhutatim aviyam. Mahatmana, the great souls too, but mam, unto me, parta, O son of Prita, daivim, divine, prakritim, nature, ashrita, taken shelter of, bhajanti, render service, ananya, manasa, without deviation of the mind, gyatva, knowing, bhuta, creation, adim, original, aviyam, inexhaustible. Translation. O son of Prita, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Purport. In this verse, the description of the Mahatma is clearly given. The first sign of the Mahatma is that he is already situated in the divine nature. He is not under the control of material nature. And how is this affected? That is explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, at once becomes freed from the control of material nature. That is the qualification. One can become free from the control of material nature as soon as he surrenders his soul to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the preliminary formula. Being marginal potency, as soon as the living entity is freed from the control of material nature, he is put under the guidance of the spiritual nature. The guidance of the spiritual nature is called Daivim Prakritim, divine nature. So, when one is promoted in that way, by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains the stage of great soul, Mahatma. The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside Krishna because he knows perfectly well that Krishna is the original Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. There is no doubt about it. Such a Mahatma, or great soul, develops through association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. Pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna's other features, such as the four-armed Mahavishnu. They are simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna. Since they are not attracted to other features of Krishna, what to speak of the demigods, they are not concerned with any form of a demigod or of a human being. They only meditate upon Krishna in Krishna consciousness. They are always engaged in the unswerving service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness. Text 14. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantas chadidavata namasyantas chamam bhaktya nityayukta upasite. Satatam, always, kirtayanta, chanting, mam, me, yantanta cha, fully endeavoring also, dridvrata, with determination, namasyanta cha, offering obeisances, mam, unto me, bhaktya, in devotion, ditya yukta, perpetually engaged, upasate, worship. Translation. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Purport. The Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. His symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. He has no other business. He is engaged in glorification of the Lord. In other words, he is not an impersonalist. When the question of glorification is there, one has to glorify the Supreme Lord, praising his holy name, his eternal form, his transcendental qualities, and his uncommon pastimes. One has to glorify all these things. Therefore, a Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is attached to the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmajyoti, is not described as Mahatma in the Bhagavad Gita. He is described in a different way in the next verse. The Mahatma is always engaged in different activities of devotional service, as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or human being. That is devotion, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Shmaranam, and remembering him. Such a Mahatma has firm determination to achieve the ultimate end in the association of the Supreme Lord in any one of the 5 transcendental rasas. To achieve that success, he engages all activities, mental, bodily, and vocal, everything, in the service of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. That is called full Krishna consciousness. In devotional service, there are certain activities which are called determined, such as fasting on certain days, like the 11th day of the moon, Ekadasi, and on the appearance day of the Lord, etc. All these rules and regulations are offered by the great acharyas for those who are actually interested in getting admission into the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental world. The Mahatmas, great souls, strictly observe all these rules and regulations, and therefore they are sure to achieve the desired result. As described in the 2nd verse of this chapter, this devotional service is not only easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. One does not need to undergo any severe penance and austerity. He can live this life in devotional service, guided by an expert spiritual master, and in any position, either as a householder or a sannyasi or a brahmachari, in any position and anywhere in the world, he can perform this devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus become actually Mahatma, a great soul. Text 15. Jnana yajnena chapyanye jananto mam apasyate ekatvena prataktvena bahuda vishvato mukam jnana yajnena, by cultivation of knowledge, cha also, api certainly, anye others, yajanta worshipping, mam me, apasyate worship, ekatvena in oneness, pritakvena in duality, bahuda diversity, vishvatamukam in the universal form. Translation. Others who are engaged in the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, diverse in many, and in the universal form. Purport. This verse is a summary of the previous verses. The Lord tells Arjuna that those who are purely in Krishna consciousness and do not know anything other than Krishna are called Mahatma. Yet there are other persons who are not exactly in the position of Mahatma, but who worship Krishna also in different ways. Some of them are already described as the distressed, the financially destitute, the inquisitive, and those who are engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. But there are others who are still lower, and these are divided into 3. Number 1, he who worships himself as one with the Supreme Lord. 2, he who concocts some form of the Supreme Lord and worships that. And 3, he who accepts the universal form, the Vishwarupa of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and worships that. Out of the above 3, the lowest, 1, those who worship themselves as the Supreme Lord, thinking themselves to be monists, are most predominant. Such people think themselves to be the Supreme Lord, and thus in this mentality they worship themselves. This is also a type of God worship, for they can understand that they are not the material body, but they are actually spiritual soul, At least such a sense is prominent. Generally, the impersonalists worship the Supreme Lord in this way. The second class includes the worshippers of the demigods, those who by imagination consider any form to be the form of the Supreme Lord. And the third class includes those who cannot conceive of anything beyond the manifestation of this material universe. They consider the universe to be the supreme organism or entity and worship that. The universe is also a form of the Lord. Aham kratur aham jagya Shvadanam aham ausadam. Mantro ham aham evajyam. Aham agnir aham hutam. Aham I, kratu, ritual. Aham I, yajna, sacrifice. Svada, oblation. Aham I, ausadam, healing herb. Mantra, transcendental chant. Aham I, eva, certainly. Ajyam, melted butter. Aham I, agni, fire. Aham I, hutam, offering. Translation. But it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. Purport. The sacrifice known as Jyotistoma is also Krishna, and he is also the Mahavajna, the oblations offered to the Prithvi Loka, or the sacrifice performed to please the Prithvi Loka, considered as a kind of drug in the form of clarified butter, is also Krishna. The mantras chanted in this connection are also Krishna. The many other commodities made with milk products for offering in the sacrifices are also Krishna. The fire is also Krishna because fire is one of the 5 material elements and is therefore claimed as the separated energy of Krishna. In other words, the Vedic sacrifices recommended in the Karmakanda division of the Vedas are in total also Krishna. Or in other words, those who are engaged in rendering devotional service unto Krishna are to be understood to have performed all the sacrifices recommended in the Vedas. Text 17. Pitaham asya jagato mahta data pitamaha vedyam pavitram omkar rigsamad yajarevacha. Pita, father, aham, I, asya, of this, jagata, of the universe, mata, mother, data, supporter, pitamaha, grandfather, vedyam, what is to be known, pavitram, that which purifies, omkar, the syllable om, rik, of the Rig Veda, sama, the Sama Veda, yajur, the Yajur Veda, eva, certainly, cha, and. Translation. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable om. I am also the Rik, the Sama, and the Jagar Vedas. Purport. The entire cosmic manifestations, both moving and non-moving, are manifested by different activities of Krishna's energy. In the material existence, we create different relationships with different living entities who are nothing but Krishna's marginal energy, but under the creation of Prakriti, some of them appear as our father, mother, grandfather, creator, etc., but actually they are parts and parcels of Krishna. As such, these living entities who appear to be our father, mother, etc., are nothing but Krishna. In this verse, the word data means creator. Not only are our father and mother parts and parcels of Krishna, but their creator, grandmother, and grandfather, etc., are also Krishna. Actually, any living entity being part and parcel of Krishna is Krishna. All the Vedas, therefore, aim only towards Krishna. Whatever we want to know through the Vedas is but a progressive step to understand Krishna. That subject matter which helps us to purify our consciousness is especially Krishna. Similarly, the living entity who is inquisitive to understand all Vedic principles is also part and parcel of Krishna, and as such is also Krishna. All the Vedic mantras, the word Om, called Pranav, is a transcendental sound vibration and is also Krishna. And because in all the hymns of the 4 Vedas, Sama, Jagar, Rig, and Atharva, the Pranav or Omkar is very prominent, it is understood to be Krishna. Text 18. Gatir Bhatta Prabhu Shakti Si Nivasa Sharanam Shukrit Prabhava Prayastanam Nindanam Bijamaviyam. Gati, goal. Bharta, sustainer. Prabhu, Lord. Sakshi, witness. Nivasa, abode. Sharanam, refuge. Surit, most intimate friend. Prabhava, creation. Pralaya, dissolution. Stanam, ground. Nidhanam, resting place. Bijam, seed. Avyayam, imperishable. Translation: I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seed. Purport: Gati means the destination where we want to go, but the ultimate goal is Krishna, although people do not know it. One who does not know Krishna is misled, and his so-called progressive march is either partial or hallucinatory. There are many who make as their destination different demigods, and by rigid performance of the strict respective methods, they reach different planets, known as Chandraloka, Suryaloka, Indraloka, Maharloka, etc. But all such lokas or planets, being creations of Krishna, are simultaneously Krishna and not Krishna. Actually, such planets, being the manifestations of Krishna's energy, are also Krishna, but actually they only serve as a step forward for realization of Krishna. To approach the different energies of Krishna is to approach Krishna indirectly. One should directly approach Krishna, for that will save time and energy. For example, if there is a possibility of going to the top of a building by the help of an elevator, why should one go by staircase step by step? Everything is resting on Krishna's energy, therefore without Krishna's shelter, nothing can exist. Krishna is the supreme ruler because everything belongs to him and everything exists on his energy. Krishna, being situated in everyone's heart, is the supreme witness. The residences, countries, or planets on which we live are also Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate goal of shelter, and as such, one should take shelter of Krishna either for protection or for annihilation of his distressed condition. And whenever we have to take protection, we should know that our protection must be a living force. Thus, Krishna is the supreme living entity. Since Krishna is the source of our generation, or the Supreme Father, no one can be a better friend than Krishna, nor can anyone be a better well-wisher. Krishna is the original source of creation and the ultimate rest after annihilation. Krishna is therefore the eternal cause of all causes. Text 19. Tapamyaham maham varsham nigrinami utshijami cha amritam chaiva murtyus cha sad asach chahamarjana. Tapami, give heat. Aham, I. Varsham, rain. Nigrinami, withhold. Utshijami, send forth. Cha, and. Amritam, immortality. Cha, and. Eva, certainly. Mrityu, death. Cha, and. Sat, being. Asat, non-being. Cha, and. Aham, I. Arjuna. O Arjuna. Translation: O Arjuna, I control heat, the rain, and the drought. I am immortality, and I am also death personified. Both being and non-being are in me. Purport: Krishna, by his different energies, diffuses heat and light through the agency of electricity in the sun. During summer season, it is Krishna who checks rain from falling from the sky, and then, during the rainy season, he gives unceasing torrents of rain. The energy which sustains us by prolonging the duration of our life is Krishna, and Krishna meets us at the end as death. By analyzing all these different energies of Krishna, one can ascertain that for Krishna there is no distinction between matter and spirit, or, in other words, he is both matter and spirit. At the advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, one does not therefore make such distinctions. He sees Krishna only in everything. Since Krishna is both matter and spirit, the gigantic universal form comprising all material manifestations is also Krishna, and his pastimes in Vrindavan as two-handed Shyamasundar playing on a flute are those of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 20. Trividya mam sohapa putapapa yagnar ishtva svargatim partayante te punyam asada surendra lokam asnanti divyan devi deva bogan. Trividya, the knower of the three Vedas, mam, unto me. Soma pa, drinkers of soma juice. Putta, purified. Papa, sins. Yajna, with sacrifices. Ishtva, after worshipping. Svargatim, passage to heaven. Partayante, pray. Te, they. Punyam, virtue. Asadya, enjoying. Surendra, of Indra, lokam, world. Ashnanti, enjoy. Divyan, celestial. Divi, in heaven. Deva Bogan, pleasures of the gods. Translation. Those who study the Vedas and drink the soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. They take birth on the planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. Purport. The word Trivedya refers to the three Vedas, Sama, Jagar, and Rig. The Brahmana who has studied these three Vedas is called Trivedi. Anyone who is very much attached to knowledge derived from these three Vedas is respected in society. Unfortunately, there are many great scholars of the Vedas who do not know the ultimate purport of understanding them. Therefore, Krishna herein declares himself to be the ultimate goal for the Trivedis. Actual Trivedis take shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and engage in pure devotional service to satisfy the Lord. Devotional service begins with the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and side by side trying to understand Krishna in truth. Unfortunately, those who are simply official students of the Vedas become more interested in offering sacrifices to the different demigods like Indra, Chandra, etc. By such endeavor, the worshippers of different demigods are certainly purified of the contamination of the lower qualities of nature and are thereby elevated to the higher planetary system or heavenly planets known as Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, etc. Once situated on those higher planetary systems, one can satisfy his senses hundreds of thousands of times better than on this planet. Text 21. Tetam bhuktva sargam lokam vishalam chine punye martalokam vishanti evam tvayi dharmam anuprapana gata katam kama labhante. Te, they, tam, that, bhuktva, enjoying, svargalokam, heaven, vishalam, vast, kshine, being exhausted, punye, merits, martilokam, mortal earth, vishante, fall down, evam, thus, trayi, three Vedas, dharmam, doctrines, anuprabhapana, following, gata agatam, death and birth, kama, desiring sense enjoyments, labhante, attain. Translation. When they have thus enjoyed heavenly sense pleasure, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, through the Vedic principles, they achieve only flickering happiness. Purport. One who is promoted to those higher planetary systems enjoys a longer duration of life and better facilities for sense enjoyment, yet one is not allowed to stay there forever. One is again sent back to this earthly planet upon finishing the resultant fruits of pious activities. He who has not attained perfection of knowledge, as indicated in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadhyasya Yata, or in other words, he who fails to understand Krishna, the cause of all causes, becomes baffled in achieving the ultimate goal of life and is thus subjected to the routine of being promoted to the higher planets and then again coming down, as if situated on a Ferris wheel, which sometimes goes up and sometimes comes down. The purport is that instead of being elevated to the spiritual world where there is no longer any possibility of coming down, one simply revolves in the cycle of birth and death on higher and lower planetary systems. One should better take to the spiritual world to enjoy eternal life of bliss and knowledge and never return to this miserable material existence. Text 22. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupashate Tesham nitya biyuktanam yogakshema viharmyaham. Ananya, no other, chintayanta, concentrating, mum, unto me, yea, who, jana, persons, parupasate, properly worship, tesam, there, nitya, always, abhuktanam, fixed in devotion, yoga kshemam, requirements, vahami, carry, aham, I. Translation. For those who worship me with devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. Purport. One who is unable to live for a moment without Krishna consciousness cannot think of Krishna 24 hours, being engaged in devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, worshiping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, rendering other services, cultivating friendship, and surrendering fully to the Lord. Such activities are all auspicious and full of spiritual potencies. Indeed, they make the devotee perfect in self-realization. Then his only desire is to achieve the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called yoga. But by the mercy of the Lord, such a devotee never comes back to this material condition of life. Kshema refers to the merciful protection of the Lord. The Lord helps the devotee to achieve Krishna consciousness by yoga, and when he becomes fully Krishna conscious, the Lord protects him from falling down to a miserable conditioned life. Text 23. Ye apyanya devata bhakta yajante shradhiyanvita tepi mam eva konteya yajanti avidhi purvakam. Yea, those, api, also, anya, others, devata, demigods, bhakta, devotees, yajante, worship, shradhya anvita, with faith, they, api, also, mam, me, eva, even, konteya, O son of Kunti, yajanti, sacrifice, avidi, purvakam, in a wrong way. Translation. Whatever a man may sacrifice to other gods, O son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but it is offered without true understanding. Purport. Quote, persons who are engaged in the worship of demigods are not very intelligent, although such worship is done to me indirectly, end quote, Krishna says. For example, when a man pours water on the leaves and branches of a tree without pouring water on the root, he does so without sufficient knowledge or without observing regulative principles. Similarly, the process of rendering service to different parts of the body is to supply food to the stomach. The demigods are, so to speak, different officers and directors in the government of the Supreme Lord. One has to follow the laws made by the government, not by the officers or directors. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. That will automatically satisfy the different officers and directors of the Lord. The officers and directors are engaged as representatives of the government, and to offer some bribe to the officers and directors is illegal. This is stated here as avidi purvakam. In other words, Krishna does not approve the unnecessary worship of the demigods. Text 24. Aham hi sarva yagnanam bhukta cha prabhurevacha natur mam abhijananti tatvenantas chavantite. Aham, I, he, certainly, or surely, sarva, of all, yagnanam, sacrifices, bhokta, enjoyer, cha, and prabhu, Lord, eva, also, cha, and na, not, to, but, mam, me, abhijananti, no, tatvena, in reality, ata, therefore, chavanti, fall down, te, they. Translation. I am the only enjoyer and the only object of sacrifice. Those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Purport. Here, it is clearly stated that there are many types of yoga performances recommended in the Vedic literatures, but actually all of them are meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord. Yajna means Vishnu. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that one should only work for satisfying Jaga, or Vishnu. The perfectional form of human civilization, known as Varnashram Dharma, is specifically meant for satisfying Vishnu. Therefore, Krishna says in this verse, quote, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices because I am the Supreme Master, end quote. However, less intelligent persons, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for temporary benefit. Therefore, they fall down to material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. If, however, anyone has any material desires to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord, although that is not pure devotion, and he will thus achieve the desired result. Text 25. Yanti deva vrata devan pritin yanti prativita, bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti mad yajinopimam. Yanti achieve deva vrata, worshippers of demigods, devan to demigods, pritin to ancestors, yanti go, pritri vrata, worshippers of ancestors, bhutani to ghosts and spirits, yanti go, bhuteja, worshippers of ghosts and spirits, yanti go, mat my, yagjina, devotees, api also, mum, unto me. Translation. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. Purport. If anyone has any desire to go to the moon, the sun, or any other planet, one can attain the desired destination by following specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose. These are vividly described in the fruitive activities portion of the Vedas, technically known as Darsha Purnamasi, which recommends a different or specific worship of demigods situated on different heavenly planets. Similarly, one can attain the Pita planets by performing a specific yajna. Similarly, one can go to many ghostly planets and become a yaksha, raksha, or pisacha. Pisacha worship is called, quote, black arts or black magic, end quote. There are many men who practice this black art and they think that it is spiritualism, but such activities are completely materialistic. Similarly, a pure devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead only achieves the planet of Vaikuntha and Krishna Loka without a doubt. It is very easy to understand that through this important verse that if by simply worshipping the demigods one can achieve the heavenly planets, or by worshipping the Pita achieve the Pita planets, or by practicing the black arts achieve the ghostly planets, why can the pure devotee not achieve the planet of Krishna or Vishnu? Unfortunately, many people have no information of these sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live, and because they do not know of them, they fall down. Even the impersonalists fall down from the Brahmajyoti. This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore distributing sublime information to the entire human society to the effect that simply by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, one can become perfect in this life and go back home, back to Godhead. Text 26. Patram pushpam palam tayam yome bhaktya parachati tadaham bhakti uparitam asnami prayatatmana. Patram, a leaf, pushpam, a flower, phalam, a fruit, toyam, water, ya, whoever, me, unto me, bhaktya, with devotion, prayachati, offers, tat, that, aham, I, bhakti uparitam, offered in devotion, asnami, except, prayata atmana, of one in pure consciousness. Translation. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Purport. Here, Lord Krishna, having established that he is the only enjoyer, the primeval Lord, and the real object of all sacrificial offerings, reveals what types of sacrifices he desires to be offered. If one wishes to engage in devotional service to the Supreme in order to be purified and to reach the goal of life, the transcendental loving service of God, then he should find out what the Lord desires of him. One who loves Krishna will give him whatever he wants, and he avoids offering anything which is undesirable or unasked for. Thus, meat, fish, and eggs should not be offered to Krishna. If he desired such things as offerings, he would have said so. Instead, he clearly requests that a leaf of fruit, flowers, or water be given to him, and he says of this offering, quote, I will accept it, end quote. Therefore, we should understand that he will not accept meat, fish, or eggs. vegetables, grains, fruits, milk, and water are the proper foods for human beings and are prescribed by Lord Krishna himself. Whatever else we eat cannot be offered to him, since he will not accept it. Thus, we cannot be acting on the level of loving devotion if we offer such foods. In the 3rd chapter, verse 13, Sri Krishna explains that only the remains of sacrifice are purified and fit for consumption by those who are seeking advancement in life and release from the clutches of this material entanglement. Those who do not make an offering of their food, he says, in the same verse, is said to be eating only sin. In other words, their every mouthful is simply deepening their involvement in the complexities of material nature. But preparing nice, simple vegetable foods, offering them before the picture or deity of Lord Krishna, and bowing down and praying for him to accept such a humble offering, enable one to advance steadily in life, purify the body, and create fine brain tissues which will lead to clear thinking. Above all, the offering should be made with an attitude of love. Krishna has no need of food, since he already possesses everything that be, yet he will accept the offering of one who desires to please him in that way. The important element in preparation, in serving, and in offering is to act with love for Krishna. The impersonalist philosophers who wish to maintain that the absolute truth is without senses cannot comprehend this verse in Bhagavad Gita. To them, it is either a metaphor or proof of the mundane character of Krishna, the speaker of the Gita. But, in actuality, Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, has senses, and it is stated that his senses are interchangeable. In other words, one sense can perform the function of any other. This is what it means to say that Krishna is absolute. Lacking senses, he could hardly be considered full in all opulences. In the 7th chapter, Krishna has explained that he impregnates the living entities into material nature. This is done by his looking on material nature. So, in this instance, Krishna's hearing the devotee's words of love and offering foodstuffs is wholly identical with his eating and actually tasting. This point should be emphasized. Because of his absolute position, his hearing is wholly identical with his eating and tasting. Only the devotee who accepts Krishna as he describes himself without interpretation can understand that the supreme absolute truth can eat food and enjoy it. Text 27. Yat karoshi yadasnasi yat juhosi dadasyat, yat taposyasi konteya, yat karushva madarpanam. Yet what karoshi you do, yet whatever asnasi you eat, yet whatever juhosi you offer, dadasi you give away, yet whatever tapasyasi, austerities you perform. Konteya, O son of Kunti, taught that Kurushva make mat unto me arpanam, offering. Translation, O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. Purport. Thus, it is the duty of everyone to mold his life in such a way that he will not forget Krishna in any circumstance. Everyone has to work for maintenance of his body and soul together, and Krishna recommends herein that one should work for him. Everyone has to eat something to live, therefore he should accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna. Any civilized man has to perform some religious ritualistic ceremonies, therefore Krishna recommends, quote, do it for me, end quote, and this is called archana. Everyone has a tendency to give something in charity. Krishna says, quote, give it to me, end quote, and this means that all surplus money accumulated should be utilized in furthering the Krishna consciousness movement. Nowadays, people are very much inclined to the meditational process, which is not practical in this age, but if anyone practices meditating on Krishna 24 hours by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra round on his beads, he is surely the greatest yogi, as substantiated by the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Text 28. Shubha Shubha Pralarevam Moksha Yase Karma Pandanai Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukta Mam Upaishyasi. Shubha, good, Ushubha, evil. palai, results, evam, thus, mokshase, free, karma, action, bandhanai, bondage, sannyasa, of renunciation, yoga, the yoga, yuktatma, having the mind firmly set on, vimukta, liberated, mam, to me, upaishyasi, you will attain. Translation. In this way, you will be freed from all reactions to good and evil deeds, and by this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated, and come to me. Purport. One who acts in Krishna consciousness under superior direction is called yukta. The technical term is yukta vairagya. This is further explained by Rupa Goswami as follows. Rupa Goswami says that as long as we are in this material world, we have to act. We cannot cease acting. Therefore, if actions are performed and the fruits are given to Krishna, then that is called yukta vairagya. Actually situated in renunciation, such activities clear the mirror of the mind, and as the actor gradually makes progress in spiritual realization, he becomes completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, at the end, he becomes liberated, and this liberation is also specified. By this liberation, he does not become one with the Brahmajyoti, but rather enters into the planet of the Supreme Lord. It is clearly mentioned here, mamupasyasi. Quote, he comes to me, end quote, back home, back to Godhead. There are 5 different stages of liberation, and here it is specified that the devotee who has always lived his lifetime here under the direction of the Supreme Lord, as stated, has evolved to the point where he can, after quitting this body, go back to Godhead and engage directly in the association of the Supreme Lord. Anyone who has no other interest but to dedicate his life to the service of the Lord is actually a sannyasi. Such a person always thinks of himself as an eternal servant dependent on the supreme will of the Lord. As such, whatever he does for the benefit of the Lord. Whatever action he performs it as service to the Lord. He does not give serious attention to the fruitive activities or prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedas. For ordinary persons, it is obligatory to execute the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedas, but although a pure devotee who is completely engaged in the service of the Lord may sometimes appear to go against the prescribed Vedic duties, actually it is not so. It is said, therefore, by Vaishnava authorities that even the most intelligent person cannot understand the plans and activities of a pure devotee. The exact words are Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vignena Bhujaya. A person who is thus always engaged in the service of the Lord, or is always thinking and planning how to serve the Lord, is to be considered completely liberated at present and in the future. His going back home, back to Godhead, is guaranteed. He is above all materialistic criticism, just as Krishna is above all criticism. Text 29. Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dvishtos dine priya nabhajanti tumam bhaktya mayate tishu chapyaham. Sama, equally disposed, aham, I, sarvabhuteshu, to all living entities, na, no one, me, mine. Dvesha, hateful, asti, is, na, nor, priya, dear, yea, those, bhajanti, render transcendental service, to, yet, mam, unto me, bhaktya, in devotion, mai, unto me, te, such persons, teshu, in them, cha, alpi, or also, api, certainly, aham, I. Translation, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Purport. One may question here that if Krishna is equal to everyone and no one is his special friend, then why does he take a special interest in the devotees who are engaged in his transcendental service? But this is not discrimination. It is natural. Any man in this material world may be very charitably disposed, yet he has a special interest in his own children. The Lord claims that every living entity, in whatever form, is his son, and as such he provides everyone with a generous supply of the necessities of life. He is just like a cloud which pours rain over all, regardless of whether it falls on rock or land or water. But for his devotee, he gives specific attention. Such devotees are mentioned here. They are always in Krishna consciousness, and therefore they are always transcendentally situated in Krishna. The very phrase, Krishna consciousness, suggests that those who are in such consciousness are living transcendentalists situated in him. The Lord says here distinctly, quote, Maite, quote, in me, end quote. Naturally, as a result, the Lord is also in them. This is reciprocal. This also explains the word Asti na priya ye bhajanti, quote, whoever surrenders unto me proportionally, I take care of him, end quote. This transcendental reciprocation exists because both the Lord and the devotee are conscious. When a diamond is set in a gold ring, it looks nice. The gold is glorified, and at the same time the diamond is glorified. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter. And when a living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. The Lord is a diamond, and so this combination is very nice. The living entities in a pure state are called devotees. The Supreme Lord becomes the devotee of his devotees. If a reciprocal relationship is not present between the devotee and the Lord, then there is no personalist philosophy. The impersonal philosophy, and there is no reciprocation between the Supreme Lord and the living entity, but in the personalist philosophy, there is. The example is often given that the Lord is like a desire tree, that whatever one wants from this desire tree, the Lord supplies. But here the explanation is more complete. The Lord is here stated to be partial to the devotees. This is the manifestation of the Lord's special mercy to the devotees. The Lord's reciprocation should not be considered to be under the law of karma. It belongs to the transcendental situation in which the Lord and his devotees function. Devotional service of the Lord is not an activity of this material world. It is part of the spiritual world, where eternity, bliss, and knowledge predominate. Text 30. Apichet sudaracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak sadirivat samantavya samyag vyavasito hisa. Api, in spite of chet, although sudarachara, one committing the most abominable actions, bhajate, engaged in devotional service, mam, unto me, ananyabhak, without deviation, sadhu, saint, eva, certainly, sa, he, mantavya, to be considered, samyak, completely, vyavasita, situated, he, certainly, sa, he. Translation: even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly, because he is properly situated. Purport: the word sudaracharo used in this verse is very significant, and we should understand it properly. When a living entity is conditioned, he has two kinds of activities. One is conditional, and the other is constitutional. As for protecting the body or abiding by the rules of society and state, certainly there are different activities, even for the devotees, in a connection with the conditional life, and such activities are called conditional. Besides these, the living entity who is fully conscious of his spiritual nature and is engaged in Krishna consciousness or in the devotional service of the Lord has activities which are called transcendental. Such activities are performed in his constitutional position, and they are technically called devotional service. Now, in the conditioned state, sometimes devotional service and the conditioned service in relation to the body will parallel one another. But then again, sometimes these activities become opposed to one another. As far as possible, the devotee is very cautious so that he does not do anything that could disrupt his wholesome condition. He knows that perfection in his activities depends on his progressive realization of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes, however, it may be seen that a person in Krishna consciousness commits some act which may be taken as most abominable socially or politically. But such a temporary fall down does not disqualify him. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that if a person falls down, but is wholeheartedly engaged in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, the Lord, being situated within his heart, beautifies him and excuses him from that abomination. The material contamination is so strong that even a yogi fully engaged in the service of the Lord sometimes becomes ensnared. But Krishna consciousness is so strong that such an occasional fall down is at once rectified. Therefore, the process of devotional service is always a success. No one should deride a devotee for some accidental fall down from the ideal path, for, as is explained in the next verse, such occasional fall downs will be stopped in due course, as soon as a devotee is completely situated in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person who is situated in Krishna consciousness and is engaged with determination in the process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, should be considered to be in the transcendental position, even if by chance or accident he is found to have fallen. The words sadhureva, quote, he is saintly, end quote, are very emphatic. There are a warning to the non-devotees that because of an accidental fall down, a devotee should not be derided. He should still be considered saintly, even if he has fallen down accidentally. And the word mantavya is still more emphatic. If one does not follow this rule and derides a devotee for his accidental fall down, then he is disobeying the order of the Supreme Lord. The only qualification of a devotee is to be unflinchingly and exclusively engaged in devotional service. The mark of a spot, which may be seen on the moon, does not become an impediment to the moonlight. Similarly, the accidental fall down of a devotee from the path of a saintly character does not make him abominable. On the other hand, one should not misunderstand that a devotee in transcendental devotional service can act in all kinds of abominable ways. This verse only refers to an accident due to the strong power of material connections. Devotional service is more or less a declaration of war against the illusory energy. As long as one is not strong enough to fight the illusory energy, there may be accidental fall downs. But when one is strong enough, he is no longer subjected to such fall downs as previously explained. No one should take advantage of this verse and commit nonsense and think that he is still a devotee. If he does not improve his character by devotional service, then it is to be understood that he is not a high devotee. Text 31. Kshipram bhavanti dharmatma sashvach chantim nigachati kontya pratijanihi name bhaktiya panasati. Kshipram, very soon, bhavati becomes dharmatma, righteous, sashvat, shantim, lasting peace, nigachati, attains, konteya, O son of Kunti, pratijanihi, justly declare, never may mine bhakta devotee pranasiti, perishes. Translation, he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Purport. This should not be misunderstood. In the 7th chapter, the Lord says that one who is engaged in mischievous activity cannot become a devotee of the Lord. One who is not a devotee of the Lord has no good qualifications whatsoever. The question remains then, how can a person engaged in abominable activities, either by accident or intention, be a pure devotee? This question may justly be raised. The miscreants, as stated in the 7th chapter, who never come to the devotional service of the Lord, have no good qualifications, as is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Generally, a devotee who is engaged in the 9 kinds of devotional activities is engaged in the process of cleansing all material contamination from the heart. He puts the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart, and all sinful contaminations are naturally washed away. Continuous thinking of the Supreme Lord makes him pure by nature. According to the Vedas, there is a certain regulation that if one falls down from his exalted position, he has to undergo certain ritualistic processes to purify himself. But here, there is no such condition because the purifying process is already there in the heart of the devotee due to his remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare should be continued without stoppage. This will protect a devotee from all accidental fall downs. Thus will remain perpetually free from all material contaminations. Text 32. Namhi parta vipasriyat shritya yepiyush papayonia stio vaishas tata shudras tepi yanti param gatim. Unto me, he, certainly, parta, O son of Prita, vipasrita, particularly taking shelter, yea, anyone, api also, shu, becomes papayonia, born of a lower family, striya, women, vaishya, mercantile people, tata also, shudra, lower class men, te api, even they, yanti, go, param, supreme, gatim, destination. Translation: O son of Prita, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, vaishyas, merchants, as well as shudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. Purport: It is clearly declared here by the Supreme Lord that in devotional service there is no distinction between the lower and higher classes of people. In the material conception of life there are such divisions, but for a person engaged in transcendental devotional service to the Lord, there are not. Everyone is eligible for the supreme destination. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that even the lowest, who are called chandalas, dog-eaters, can be elevated by association with a pure devotee. Therefore, devotional service and guidance of a pure devotee are so strong that there is no discrimination between the lower and higher classes of men. Anyone can take to it. The most simple man, taking shelter of the Supreme Person, or pure devotee, can be purified by proper guidance. According to the different modes of material nature, men are classified in the modes of goodness, brahmanas, the mode of passion, kshatriyas or administrators, the mixed modes of passion and ignorance, vaishyas or merchants, and the mode of ignorance, shudras or workers. Those lower than them are called chandalas, and they are born in sinful families. Generally, those who are born in sinful families are not accepted by the higher classes, but the process of devotional service and the pure devotee of the Supreme God are so strong that all the lower classes can attain the highest perfection of life. This is possible only when one takes center of Krishna. One has to take center completely of Krishna, then one can become much greater than great jnanis and yogis. Text 33. Kim Purnar Brahmana Punya Bhakta Rajarshayastata Anityam Ashokam Lokam Imam Prapya Bhavyashyavam Mum. Kim, how much? Puna, again, Brahmanas, Punya, righteous, Bhakta, devotees, Rajarshya, saintly kings, Tata also, Anityam, temporary, Ashokam, sorrowful, Lokam, planets, Imam, this, Prapya, gaining, Bhajashva, are engaged in loving service, Mum, unto me. Translation: How much greater, then, are the Brahmanas, the righteous, the devotees, and saintly kings, who in this temporary miserable world engage in loving service unto me. Purport: In this material world there are classifications of people, but after all, this world is not a happy place for anyone. It is clearly stated here, Anityam Ashukam Lokam. This world is temporary and full of miseries, not habitable for any sane gentleman. This world is declared by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be temporary and full of miseries. Some of the philosophers, especially the minor philosophers, say that this world is false. But we can understand from Bhagavad Gita that the world is not false, it is temporary. There is a difference between temporary and false. This world is temporary, but there is another world which is eternal. This world is miserable, but the other world is eternal and blissful. Arjuna was born in a saintly royal family. To him also the Lord says, quote, Take to my devotional service and come quickly back to Godhead, back home. End quote. No one should remain in this temporary world as full as it is with miseries. Everyone should attach himself to the bosom of the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that he can be eternally happy. The devotional service of the Supreme Lord is the only process by which all problems of all classes of men can be solved. Everyone should therefore take to Krishna consciousness and make his life perfect. Text 34. Manmana babamad bhakta madhiji mam namaskaru mamivasya daivam atmanam matprayana. Manmana, always thinking of me. Bhava, become. Mat, my bhakta devotee. Mat, my yaji worshipper. Mam, unto me. Namaskaru, offer obeisances. Mam, unto me. Eva, completely. Avsyasi, come. Yuktama evam, become, being absorbed. Atmanam, your soul. Matprayana, devoted to me. Translation: Engage your mind in always thinking of me, offer obeisances and worship me, being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Purport. In this verse is clearly indicated that Krishna consciousness is the only means of being delivered from the clutches of this contaminated material world. Sometimes unscrupulous commentators distort the meaning of what is clearly stated here, that all devotional service should be offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Unfortunately, unscrupulous commentators divert the mind of the reader to that which is not at all feasible. Such commentators do not know that there is no difference between Krishna's mind and Krishna. Krishna is not an ordinary human being. He is the absolute truth. His body, mind, and he himself are one and absolute. It is stated in the Karma Purana, as it is quoted by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami in his Anubhasya comments on Chaitanya Charitamrita 5th chapter, Adi Lila, verses 41 through 48. Deha dehi vibhado yam neshvare vidyate kvachit, end quote, which means that there is no difference in Krishna, the Supreme Lord, between himself and his body. But because they do not know this science of Krishna, the commentators hide Krishna and divide his personality from his mind or from his body. Although this is sheer ignorance of the science of Krishna, some men make profit out of misleading the people. There are some who are demoniac. They also think of Krishna, but enviously, just like King Kamsa, Krishna's uncle. He was also thinking of Krishna always, but he thought of Krishna as his enemy. He was always in anxiety, wondering when Krishna would come to kill him. That kind of thinking will not help us. One should be thinking of Krishna in devotional love. That is bhakti. One should cultivate the knowledge of Krishna continually. And what is that favorable cultivation? It is to learn from a bona fide teacher. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as we have several times explained, that his body is not material, but is eternal, blissful knowledge. This kind of talk about Krishna will help one to become a devotee. Otherwise, understanding Krishna from the wrong source will prove fruitless. One should therefore engage his mind in the eternal form, the primal form of Krishna, with conviction in his heart that Krishna is the Supreme. He should engage himself in worship. There are hundreds and thousands of temples in India for the worship of Krishna, and devotional service is practiced there. When such practice is made, one has to offer obeisances to Krishna. One should lower his head before the deity and engage his mind, his body, his activities, everything. That will make one fully absorbed in Krishna without deviation. This will help one transfer into Krishna Loka. One should not be deviated by unscrupulous commentators. One must engage in the 9 different processes of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting about Krishna. Pure devotional service is the highest achievement of human society. In the 7th and 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, pure devotional service to the Lord has been explained, apart from the yoga of knowledge and mystic yoga or fruitive activities. Those who are not purely sanctified may be attracted by different features of the Lord, like the impersonal Brahmajyoti and localized Paramatma, but a pure devotee directly takes to the service of the Supreme Lord. There is a beautiful poem about Krishna in which it is clearly stated that any person who is engaged in the worship of demigods is most unintelligent and cannot achieve at any time the supreme award of Krishna. The devotee in the beginning may sometimes fall from the standard, but still he should be considered superior to all other philosophers and yogis. One who always engages in Krishna consciousness should be understood to be the perfect saintly person. His accidental non-devotional activities will diminish, and he will soon be situated without any doubt in complete perfection. The pure devotee has no actual chance to fall down because the Supreme Godhead personally takes care of his pure devotees. Therefore, the intelligent person should take directly to this process of Krishna consciousness and happily live in this material world. He will eventually receive the supreme award of Krishna. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the most confidential knowledge.